Our fifth contestant is number 136, performing Crafty.
Oh, God. Hi, my name is Barbara Ellen Diggs, and I'm a craftsperson here in Decatur. And this morning, I would like to speak to you, our Junior Chamber of Commerce, about the importance of crafts in our culture. Today, I exhibit my work statewide and teach a number of workshops at the local women's prison, where a lady who recently slaughtered her entire family now makes note cards. Personalized with sequins and dried corn. Oh, and I recently crocheted a tuxedo for my toaster. Well, my family has always been very supportive of my hobbies. Well, except for my son, whom I loved dearly. I also deeply enjoy scrapbooking. And her groundbreaking 1936 article, American Euphemisms for Dying, Death, and Burial, Louise Pound states that one of mankind's greatest problems is to avoid the straightforward mention of death. When dealing with the loss of a loved one, it is common for us to try and escape our grief. This escape will usually manifest itself in the form of a euphemism. Playwright Paul Rudnick draws a link between euphemisms and all-consuming hobbies, like crafts. He argues that these things can, in fact, foster acceptance, if used not to look away from our grief, but as a lens through which we can see our grief more clearly. Crafty by Paul Rudnick. You know, some sophisticated people say that crafts aren't art. But by the same token, some people say that New Yorkers aren't people. Crafts allow me to express myself, to create something worth dusting. For example, here, I color Xeroxed a simple Polaroid of my Aunt Polly, and I placed it at the center of a piece of oak tag. And then I surrounded it with these cute little heart-shaped lace doilies. Oh, and I worked out her name, Aunt Polly. I also included some movie ticket stubs from a film we saw together, the invitation to her wedding, and a tiny burlap sack containing one of her kidney stones. The page now weighs 15 pounds. And it can tell you Aunt Polly's entire life story. And I don't even like her. You know, my son Hank was always very, very special. Oh, he used to scold me for using words like that. What did he call them? Euphemisms. He'd say things like, "Mom, I'm gay." And I'd say, "No, you're not. You're special." And he'd say, "No, that makes me sound like I'm retarded." And I'd say, "I wish." And we'd laugh. And you know, it never really bothered me, even though he did move so far away. Started working for a big fancy Broadway costume designer in New York. Oh, and we didn't come home all that much, but we would write back and forth. Oh, and he would send me these beautiful trims and braids from all the costumes. And, well, I wouldn't know what to do with them. So to thank him, I'd send him those little Hummel figurines. Oh, you know, those cute little ceramic children holding an umbrella or petting a puppy or sitting on a swing. And he used to get so mad. He'd call me up on the phone and he'd say, "Mom, stop sending me things you can order off the TV," which hurt me. So I said, "You know what, Hank? If homosexuality is genetic, then maybe so is home shopping. Well, then he got sick with that terrible disease. So I flew to New York to see him in the hospital. And do you know what I brought? Nothing. Oh, I didn't want to embarrass him in front of his friends who were all so nice. They all kept kissing and hugging me and saying, "Hank, we love your mom. She's a hoot." A hoot. That means I wore polyester without irony. Oh, but they were all really very sweet and so good to Hank. And when we were finally alone, he looked up at me and said, "Mom, what'd you bring me?" A pot holder, a picture frame with twine and little plastic daisies, 2 little bunnies on a sled. And I said no. I know how that stuff just upsets you, makes you feel like a hick. And he said, "Oh, that's okay. I just wanted to see you." So I stayed there until, well, let's use one of those euphemisms, until he passed away. And you know, maybe that's why euphemisms got invented, not because people are ashamed, but because they hate the real word too much. And I hated that word. And I hated that disease. For the longest time, I just went to work and I came home. I didn't touch a thing. Not a needle, not a bobbin, not a pair of pinking shears. I would not bring beauty or joy or rickrack into this world. I was just too. I was just too sad. But then on the TV, I saw that quilt. You know, 75,000 squares, each for a different man, woman, and child. And I look at it and I think, my Lord, it's like a cemetery created by the Ladies' Home Journal. So I got a piece of hot pink felt and all the trims and braids that Hank had given me, and I sewed them on. And I embroidered his name. Oh, and I sewed on his favorite t-shirt that says, "No one knows I'm gay." Only I changed it so it says, "No one knows I'm from Decatur." Oh, but that was ages ago, and you know, now they've got medicine, so people, well, some people can keep going. And you know, they have got all new ways to hurt people. Like that 9/11. You know, recently I was in the city for a cake decorating competition. It was cutthroat. And you know, I couldn't go downtown because it was so terrible and because that's where Hank lived, so I walked over to Central Park. And in the park, they were having this, oh God, somebody called it an installation by some fancy French artist. And in the park, he'd put up these archways, these big aluminum gates. From the top at the center, there was a bright orange curtain. And I looked at it and I thought, well, now I know what an installation is, just a giant French crafts project. So I stood there, and the sun came out, and the breeze was blowing all those orange curtains back and forth. And you know, it didn't make any sense. But it was very pretty. And you know, I asked this woman next to me, I said, "Does this installation and all this orange fabric, does it make people feel better?" And she said, "Yes, it does." And you know, I hadn't talked about them in so long. But I stood there under one of those gates and I told her about Hank. And I asked her if she was there on 9/11, and she said yes. And I asked her if she lost anybody. And she said yes. You know, I don't know if I believe in God anymore. But I do believe in cute. And I believe in glue, and I believe in hot pink felt. And you know, maybe if I was a New Yorker, I would believe in orange shower curtains hanging in Central Park.